The galaxy was filled with strange planets, beings, and civilizations, but none were quite as mysterious and treacherous as the planet Karoth. Home to the powerful and tyrannical alien race known as the Karathians, Karoth was a planet marked by its chaotic industrial wastelands and towering metal spires that scraped the sky. The planet had long been a place of suffering, and its citizens lived in the shadow of their king, Kor, a brutal ruler with no regard for anything or anyone except his own power. But the story begins with the king's daughter, the so-called Junkyard Princess, a name given to her not by affection but by her father's indifference. Princess Zhara had always been different from the others of her royal bloodline. Unlike her father, who thrived on power and control, Zhara was known for her compassion, her curiosity about the world beyond her gilded cage, and her fondness for the broken-down, discarded relics that littered the planet. She often wandered the junkyards of Karoth, collecting parts and pieces of discarded technology, trying to create something beautiful from the chaos. But her father saw none of it as valuable. He saw her as a mere ornament, something to be used to further his rule. One fateful day, King Kor made a decision that would change everything. The kingdom was running out of resources, and there was only one way to obtain the necessary parts for his grand ambitions: through trade with the humans. And so, King Kor devised a plan, one that would satisfy both his ego and his desire for domination. He decided that his daughter, the Junkyard Princess, would be traded away as an offering. The king, ever the cold-hearted ruler, did not view his daughter's life as precious, only as an object to be exchanged. When Zhara heard of her fate, she could hardly believe it. Her father's words were clear. She was to be given away as trash, as a mere bargaining chip. Her heart sank as she realized that there was no way out. She had lived a life of luxury, but at what cost? The absence of love and true connection had left her yearning for something more. Now, she would be nothing more than a discarded relic in a human mechanic's hands, sent to a distant world to do as they wished with her. The day of the trade arrived. Zhara was taken aboard a vessel bound for a distant human colony, a place where she had never been, a place where the world was full of unfamiliar faces and unknown customs. When the ship landed, she was delivered to a rugged hangar filled with the sounds of tools and engines, a mechanic's paradise. There, waiting for her, was the last person she had expected to meet, a human mechanic named Max Lawson. Max was an ordinary man by most standards, a worker who spent his days repairing ships and machines for a living. He had never asked for anything extraordinary. He was tall with calloused hands and a no-nonsense attitude. But when he saw Zhara standing before him, her regal beauty somehow still intact despite her father's disdain, something stirred in him, an unexpected spark of compassion. He could see the sadness in her eyes, the quiet resignation in her posture. She wasn't just a gift from the Karathians. She was a person who had been cast aside and treated like an object. Max's first instinct wasn't to treat her as royalty, nor as trash as the king had suggested. Instead, he felt an overwhelming urge to do the one thing that seemed most important, to offer her a sense of humanity, of dignity, something that she had been denied for far too long. "What's your name?" Max asked softly, his voice low and comforting as he approached her. Zhara looked up at him, surprised by the warmth in his tone. "Zhara," she said, her voice a mixture of sadness and disbelief. "I'm the Junkyard Princess." Max raised an eyebrow at her words, but it was clear he didn't care about her title or status. He just wanted to understand who she really was, not the label given to her by the king. "Well, Zhara, you're not going to be treated like some piece of junk here," he said firmly. "This is your new home now, and you can choose what you want to make of it." Zhara was taken aback by his kindness. It had been so long since anyone had treated her like a human being. She had been discarded by her father, abandoned by those who were supposed to care for her. But here with Max, there was something different. There was no fear in his eyes, no hidden agenda. It was simple. He saw her, not as a commodity, but as a person. Max set to work immediately, offering Zhara a place to stay and showing her the ropes of his mechanic shop. He explained how the engines worked, how repairs were made, and he taught her the value of fixing things. Over time, Zhara began to understand the world that Max inhabited, a world filled with oil-stained hands, loud tools, and the satisfying hum of a machine brought back to life. It was nothing like the cold and sterile luxury of the palace, but it felt real. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was actually contributing, actually making a difference. As the days turned into weeks, something else began to happen. Max and Zhara grew closer. What had started as a simple act of kindness on Max's part began to turn into something more. Zhara found herself drawn to his quiet strength, his humility, and his kindness. And Max, in turn, began to see Zhara not just as the discarded princess, but as a woman who had endured so much pain, but who was also full of potential and hope. One night, after a particularly grueling day of repairs, Max and Zhara found themselves sitting together outside, gazing at the stars. The night was peaceful, a stark contrast to the harsh realities of their lives. Max turned to Zhara and, without thinking, took her hand in his. "I never expected my life to turn out like this," Max said, his voice low and honest. "I never expected to meet someone like you." Zhara smiled softly, her heart fluttering. "And I never expected to be here with you. But I'm glad I am." Max paused, his thumb brushing against her hand. "You've been through so much, Zhara. You deserve more than what you were given. And I want to give that to you. Not as some mechanic, but as someone who cares." Tears welled up in Zara's eyes as she looked at him. She had never felt so seen, so valued. Max hadn't just taken her in out of obligation. He had treated her with respect, with compassion, and with love. "I care about you too, Max," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I never thought I could find someone who would see me as more than just the Junkyard Princess." Max's eyes softened. "You're so much more than that, Zhara. You're so much more." And that night, as the stars above them shone brightly, Max kissed her. It wasn't a kiss born of desperation or manipulation. It was the kiss of two souls who had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances. As the years passed, Max and Zara's bond grew stronger. Zhara became more than just Max's partner in the shop. She became his equal, his confidant, and his love. They rebuilt not only machines, but their own lives together. Zhara, the Junkyard Princess, had found a home in the most unexpected of places, amongst the grease and engines of a human mechanic's workshop. And Max? He had found love in the most unlikely of ways, a love that had been born out of kindness, compassion, and the willingness to see beyond the surface. In the end, Zhara had not been discarded as trash, but was cherished, loved, and built into something new, something far more valuable than anything the King of Karoth could have ever offered. They both knew they would face challenges ahead, but together, they had already proven that they could survive anything the galaxy threw at them.